Chapter 9. I stopped trying to sleep after my first few attempts are interrupted by unspeakable nightmares. After that, I just lie still and do fake breathing whenever someone checks on me. In the morning, I'm released from the hospital and instructed to take it easy. Cressida asked me to record a few lines for a new Mockingjay propo. At lunch, I keep waiting for people to bring up Peeta's appearance, but no one does. Someone must have seen it besides Finnick and me. I have training, but Gil's scheduled to work with BT on weapons or something, so I get permission to take Finnick to the woods. We wander around a while and then ditch our communicators under a bush. When we're a safe distance away, we sit and discuss Peeta's broadcast. I haven't heard one word about it. No one's told you anything? Finnick says. I shake my head. He pauses before he asks, not even Gale? I'm clinging to a shred of hope that Gale honestly knows something about Peeta's message. But I have a bad feeling he does. Maybe he's trying to find a time to tell you privately. Maybe, I say. We stay silent so long that a buck wanders into range. I take it down with an arrow. Finnick calls it back to the fence. For dinner, there's minced venison in the stew. Gil walks me back to compartment E after we eat. When I ask him what's been going on, again, there's no mention of Peeta. As soon as my mother and sister are asleep, I slip the pearl from the drawer and spend a second sleepless night clutching it in my hand, replaying Peeta's words in my head. Ask yourself, do you really trust the people you're working with? Do you really know what's going on? And if you don't, find out. Find out. What? From who? And how can Peeta know anything except what the Capitol tells him? It's just a Capitol propo. More noise. But if Plutarch thinks it's just a Capitol line, why didn't he tell me about it? Why hasn't anyone let me or Finnick know? Under this debate lies the real source of my distress. Peeta. What have they done to him? And what are they doing to him right now? Clearly, Snow did not buy the story that Peeta and I knew nothing about the rebellion. And his suspicions have been reinforced. Now that I have come out as a Mockingjay, Peeta can only guess about the rebel tactics or make up things to tell his torturers. Lies, once discovered, would be severely punished. How abandoned by me he must feel. In his first interview, he tried to protect me from the Capitol and rebels alike, and not only have I failed to protect him, I brought down more horrors upon him. Come morning, I stick my forearm in the wall and stare groggily at the day's schedule. Immediately after breakfast, I am slated for production. In the dining hall, as I down my hot grain of milk and mushy beets, I spot a communicuff on Gale's wrist. When did you get that back, Soldier Hawthorne? I asked. Yesterday, they thought if I'm going to be in the field with you, it could be a backup system of communication, says Gale. No one has ever offered me a communicuff. I wonder if I asked for one, would I get it? Well, I guess if one of us has to be accessible, I say with an edge to my voice. What's that mean? He says. Nothing. Just repeating what you said, I tell him, and I totally agree, but the accessible one should be you. I just hope I still have access to you as well. Our eyes lock, and I realize how furious I am with Gale, but I don't believe for a second that he doesn't see Peeta's propo. He didn't see Peeta's propo. But I feel completely betrayed that he didn't tell me about it. We know each other too well for him not to read my mood, and guess what has caused it? Katniss, he begins, already the admission of guilt is in his tone. I grab my tray, crouch to the deposit area, and slam the dishes onto the rack. By the time I'm in the hallway, he's caught up with me. Why didn't you say something? He asked, taking my arm. Why didn't I? I jerked my arm free. Why didn't you, Gale? And I did, by the way, when I asked you last night about what had been going on. I'm sorry. All right. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell you, but everyone was afraid that seeing Peeta's propo would make you sick, he says. They were right. It did, but not quite as sick as you lying to me for coin. At that moment, his communicuff starts beeping. There she is. Better run. You have things to tell her. For a moment, real hurt registers on his face. Then cold anger replaces it. He turns on his heel and goes. Maybe I have been too spiteful, not giving him enough time to explain. Maybe everyone is just trying to protect me by lying to me. I don't care. I'm sick of people lying to me for my own good. Because really, it's mostly for their own good. Lie to Katniss about the rebellion so she doesn't do anything crazy. Send her into the arena without a clue so we can fish her out. Don't tell her about Peeta's propo because it might make her sick, and it's hard enough to get a decent performance out of her as it is. I do feel sick, heart sick, and too tired for a day of production. But I'm already at remake, so I go in. Today, I discover we will be returning to District 12. Cressida wants to do unscripted interviews with Gale and me throwing light on our demolished city. If you're both up for that, says Cressida, looking closely at my face. Count me in, I say. I stand uncommunicative and stiff, a mannequin, as my prep team dresses me, does my hair, and dabs makeup on my face. Not enough to show, only enough to take the edge off the circles under my sleepless eyes. Boggs escorts me down to the hangar, but we don't talk beyond a preliminary greeting. I'm grateful to be spared another exchange about my disobedience in 8, especially since his mask looks so uncomfortable. At the last moment, I remembered to send a message to my mother about my leaving 13 and stressed that it won't be dangerous. We board a hovercraft for the short ride to 12, and I'm directed to a seat at a table where Plutarch, Gale, and Cressida are poring over a map. Plutarch's brimming with satisfaction as he shows me the before-after effects of the first couple of propos. The rebels, who were barely maintaining a foothold in several districts, have rallied. They have actually taken 3 and 11, the latter so crucial since it's Panem's main food supplier, and have made inroads in several other districts as well. Hopeful. Very hopeful indeed, says Plutarch. Fulvia is going to have the first round of We Remember spots ready tonight so we can target the individual districts with their dead. Thanks, absolutely marvelous. It's painful to watch, actually, says Cressida. He knew so many of them personally. That's what makes it feel so effective, says Plutarch. Straight from the heart. You're all doing beautifully. Coin could not be more pleased. Gale didn't tell them then about my pretending not to see Peeta and my anger at their cover-up. But I guess it's too little, too late, because I still can't let it go. It doesn't matter. He's not speaking to me either. It's not until we land in the meadow that I realize Hamish isn't among our company. When I asked Plutarch about his absence, he just shakes his head and says he couldn't face it. Hamish, not able to face something? Want a day off, more likely, I say. I think his actual words were, I couldn't face it without a bottle, says Plutarch. I roll my eyes, long out of patience with my mentor, his weakness for drink, and what he can or can't confront. But about 5 minutes after my return to 12, I'm wishing I had a bottle myself. I thought I'd come to terms with 12's demise, heard of it, seen it from the air, and wandered through its ashes. So why does everything bring on a fresh pang of grief? Was I simply too out of it before to fully register the loss of my world, or the look on Gale's face as he takes in the destruction on foot that makes the atrocity feel brand new? Cressida directs the team to start with me at my old house. I ask her what she wants me to do. Whatever you feel like, she says. Standing back in my kitchen, I don't feel like doing anything. In fact, I find myself focusing up at the sky, but the only roof left because too many memories are drowning me. After a while, Cressida says, "That's fine, Katniss, let's move on." Gale doesn't get out so easily at his old address. Cressida films him in silence for a few minutes, but just as he pulls the one remnant of his previous life from the ashes, a twisted metal poker, she starts to question him about his family, his job, life in the scene. She makes him go back to the night of the firebombing and reenact it, starting at his house, working his way down across the meadow and through the woods to the lake. I straggle behind the film crew and the bodyguards, feeling their presence to be a violation of my beloved woods. This is a private place, a sanctuary, already corrupted by the capital's evil. Even after we've left behind the charred stumps near the fence, we're still tripping over decomposing bodies. Do we have to record it for everyone to see? By the time we reach the lake, Gale seems to have lost his ability to speak. Everyone's dripping in sweat, especially Castor and Pollux in their insect shells, and Cressida calls for a break. I scoop up handfuls of water from the lake, wishing I could dive in and surface alone and naked and unobserved. I wander around the perimeter for a while. When I come back around to the little concrete house beside the lake, I pause in the doorway and see Gil propping the crooked poker he salvaged against the wall by the hearth. For a moment, I have an image of a lone stranger, sometime far, far in the future, wandering lost in the wilderness and coming up the small place of refuge with a pile of split logs, the hearth, the poker, wondering how it came to be. Gale turns and meets my eyes, and I know he's thinking about our last meeting here, when we fought over whether or not to run away. If we had, would District 12 still be there? I think it would, but the capital would still be in control of Panem as well. Cheese sandwiches are passed around, and we eat them in the shade of the trees. I intentionally sit at the far edge of the group next to Pollux, so I don't have to talk. No one's talking much, really. In the relative quiet, the birds take back the woods. I nudge Pollux with my elbow and point out a small black bird with a crown. It hops to a new branch, momentarily opening its wings, showing off its white patches. Pollux gestures to my pin and raises his eyebrows questioningly. I nod, confirming it's a Mockingjay. I hold up one finger to say, "Wait, I'll show you," and whistle a bird call. The Mockingjay cocks his head and whistles the call right back at me. Then, to my surprise, Pollux whistles a few notes of his own. The bird answers him immediately. Pollux's face breaks into an expression of delight, and he has a series of melodic exchanges with a Mockingjay. My guess is the first conversation he's had in years. Music draws mockingjays like blossoms do bees, and in a short while, he's got half a dozen of them perched in the branches over our heads. He taps me on the arm and uses a twig to write a word in the dirt. Sing? Usually, I decline, but it's kind of impossible to say no to Pollux, given the circumstances. Besides, the Mockingjays' song voices are different from their whistles, and I'd like him to hear them. So, before I actually think about what I'm doing, I sing Rue's 4 notes, the ones she used to signal the end of the workday at 11, the notes that ended up as a background music to her murder. The birds don't know that. They pick up the simple phrase and bounce it back and forth between them in sweet harmony, just as they did in the Hunger Games before the mutations broke through the trees, chased us onto the cornucopia, and slowly gnawed Cato to a bloody pulp. Want to hear them do a real song? I burst out. Anything to stop those memories. I'm on my feet, moving back into the trees, resting my head on the rough trunk of a maple where the birds perch. I have not sung the hanging tree out loud for 10 years because it's forbidden, but I remember every word. I begin softly, sweetly, as my father did. Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murdered 3. Strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. The Mockingjays begin to alter their songs as they become aware of my new offering. Are you coming to the tree where the dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. I have the birds' attention now. In one more verse, surely they will have captured the melody as it's simple and repeats 4 times with little variation. Are you coming to the tree where I told you to run so we both be free? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. A hush in the trees, just the rustle of leaves in the breeze, but no birds, mockingjay or other. Peeta's right, they do fall silent when I sing, just as they did for my father. Are you coming to the tree where a necklace of rope side by side with me? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. The birds are waiting for me to continue, but that's it. Last verse. In the stillness, I remember the scene. I was home from a day in the woods with my father, sitting on the floor with Panem, who was just a toddler, singing the hanging tree, making us necklaces out of scraps of old rope like it said in the song, not knowing the real meaning of the words. The tune was simple and easy to harmonize to, though, and back then I could memorize almost anything set to music after a round or 2. Suddenly, my mother snatched the rope necklaces away and was yelling at my father. I started to cry because my mother never yelled. And then Prim was wailing and I ran outside to hide. As I had exactly one hiding spot in the meadow under a honeysuckle bush, my father found me immediately. He calmed me down and told me everything was fine, only we better not sing that song anymore. My mother just wanted me to forget it. So of course, every word was immediately irrevocably branded into my brain. We didn't sing it anymore, my father and I, or even speak of it. After he died, it used to come back to me a lot. Being older, I began to understand the lyrics. At the beginning, it sounds like a guy is trying to get his girlfriend to secretly meet up with him at midnight. But it's an odd place for a tryst, a hanging tree where a man was hung for murder. The murderer's lover must have had something to do with the killing, or maybe they were just going to punish her anyway because his corpse called down for her to flee. That's weird, obviously, the talking corpse bit, but it's not until the third verse that the hanging tree begins to get unnerving. You realize the singer of the song is the dead murderer. He's still in the hanging tree, and even though he told his lover to flee, he keeps asking if she's coming to meet him. The phrase where I told you to run so we both be free is the most troubling because at first you think he's talking about when he told her to flee, presumably to safety, but then you wonder if he meant for her to run to him, to death. In the final stanza, it's clear that that's what he's waiting for. His lover, with her rope necklace, hanging dead next to him in the tree. I used to think the murderer was the creepiest guy imaginable. Now, with a couple of trips to the Hunger Games under my belt, I decided not to judge him without knowing more details. Maybe his lover was already sentenced to death and he was trying to make it easier, to let her know he'd be waiting. Or maybe he thought the place he was leaving her was really worse than death. Didn't I want to kill Peeta with that syringe to save him for the capital? Was that really my only option? Probably not, but I couldn't think of another at the time. I guess my mother thought the whole thing was too twisted for a 7-year-old, though, especially one who made her own rope necklaces. It wasn't like hanging was something that only happened in a story. Plenty of people were executed that way at 12. You can bet she didn't want me singing it in front of my music class. She probably wouldn't like me doing it doing it here for Pollux even, but at least I'm not. Wait, no, I'm wrong. As I glance sideways, I see Castor has been taping me. Everyone is watching me intently, and Pollux has tears running down his cheeks because no doubt my freaky song has dredged up some terrible incident in his life. Great. I sigh and lean back against the trunk. That's when the Mockingjays begin their rendition of the hanging tree. In their mouths, it's quite beautiful. Conscious of being filmed, I sang quietly until I hear Cressida call, "Cut!" Pluto crosses to me, laughing. Where do you come up with this stuff? No one would believe it if we made it up. He throws an arm around me and kisses me on top of my head with a loud smack. You're golden. I wasn't doing it for the cameras, I say. Lucky they were on then, he says. Come on, everybody, back to town. As we trudge back through the woods, we reach a boulder, and both Gale and I turn our heads in the same direction, like a pair of dogs catching a scent on the wind. Cressida notices and asks what lies that way. We admit, without acknowledging each other, it's our old hunting rendezvous place. She wants to see it, even after we tell her it's nothing really. Nothing but a place where I was happy, I think. A rock ledge overlooking the valley, perhaps a little less green than usual, but the blackberry bushes hang heavy with fruit. Here began countless days of hunting and snaring, fishing and gathering, roaming together through the woods, unloading our thoughts while we filled our game bags. This was the doorway to both sustenance and sanity, and we were each other's key. There's no District 12 to escape from now, no peacekeepers to trick, no hungry mouths to feed. The capital took away all of that, and I'm on the verge of losing Gale as well. The glue of mutual need that bonded us so tightly together for all those years is melting away. Dark patches, not light, show in the spaces between us. How can it be that today, in the face of 12's horrible demise, we are too angry to even speak to each other? Gale is good as lied to me, though it's unacceptable, even if he was concerned about my well-being. His apology seemed genuine, though, and I threw it back in his face with an insult to make sure it stung. What is happening to us? Why are we always at odds now? It's all a muddle, but I somehow feel that if I went back to the root of our troubles, my actions would be at the heart of it. Do I really want to drive him away? My fingers encircle a blackberry and pluck it from its stem. I roll it gently between my thumb and forefinger. Suddenly, I turn to him and toss it in his direction. And may the odds, I say. I throw it high so he has plenty of time to decide whether to knock it aside or accept it. Gale's eyes train on me, not the berry, but at the last moment, he opens his mouth and catches it. He chews, swallows, and there's a long pause before he says, "Be ever in your favor." But he does say it. Cressida has us sit in the nook in the rocks where it's impossible not to be touching and coaxes us into talking about hunting. What drove us out into the woods, how we met, favorite moments. We thaw, begin to laugh a little as we relate mishaps with bees and wild dogs and skunks. And the conversation turns to how it felt to translate our skill with weapons, the bombing and AIDS. I stop talking. Gale just says, long overdue. By the time we reach the town square, afternoon sinking into evening, I take Cressida to the rubble of the bakery and ask her to film something. The only emotion I can muster is exhaustion. Peta, this is your home. None of your family has been heard of since the bombing. 12 is gone, and you're calling for a ceasefire? I look across the emptiness. There's no one left to hear you. As we stand before the lump of metal that was the gallows, Cressida asks if either of us have ever been tortured. In answer, Gale pulls off his shirt and turns his back to the camera. I stare at the lash marks and again hear the whistling of the whip, see his bloody figure hanging unconscious by his wrists. I'm done, I announce. I'll meet you at the Victor's Village. Something for my mother. I guess I walked here, but the next thing I'm conscious of is sitting on the floor in front of the kitchen cabinets. of her house in the victor's village, meticulously lining ceramic jars and glass bottles into a box, placing clean cotton bandages between them to prevent breaking, wrapping bunches of dried flowers. Suddenly, I remember the rose on my dresser. Was it real? If so, is it still up there? I have to resist the temptation to check. If it's there, it will only frighten me all over again. I hurry with my packing. When the cabinets are empty, I rise to find that Gil has materialized in my kitchen. It's disturbing how silently he can appear. He's laying on the table, his fingers spread wide against the wood grain. I set a box between us. Remember? He asked. This is where you kissed me. So the heavy dose of morphine administered after the whipping wasn't enough to erase that from his consciousness. I didn't think you remember that, I say. Has to be dead to forget. Maybe even not Ben, he tells me. Maybe I'll be like Batman, the hanging tree, still waiting for an answer. Gale, who I have never seen cry, has tears in his eyes. To keep him from spilling over, I reach forward and press my lips against his. We taste of heat, ashes, and misery. It's a surprising flavor for such a gentle kiss. He pulls it away first and gives me a wry smile. I knew you'd kiss me. How? I say, because I didn't know myself. Because I'm in pain, he says. That's the only way I get your attention. He picks up the box. Don't worry, Katniss. It'll pass. He leaves before I can answer. I'm too weary to work through his latest charge. I spend the short ride back to 13, curled up in a seat, trying to ignore Plutarch going on about one of his favorite subjects. Weapons mankind no longer has at its disposal. High-flying planes, military satellites, self-disintegrators, drones, biological weapons with expiration dates. Brought down by the destruction of the atmosphere or lack of resources or moral squeamishness. You can hear the regret of a head game maker who could only dream of such toys, who must make do with hovercrafts and land-to-land missiles and plain old guns. After jumping off my Mockingjay suit, I go straight to bed without eating. Even so, premises shake me to get me up in the morning. After breakfast, I ignore my schedule and take a nap in the supply closet. When I come to, crawling out from between the boxes of chalk and pencils, it's dinner time again. I get an extra large portion of pea soup, and I'm headed back to compartment E when Bugs intercepts me. There's a meeting in command. Disregard your current schedule, he says. Done, I say. Did you follow it at all today? He asks in exasperation. Who knows? I'm mentally disoriented. I hold up my wrist to show my medical bracelet and realize it's gone. See? I can't even remember they took my bracelet. Why do they want me in command? Did I miss something? I think Cressida wanted to show you the 12 propos, but I guess you'll see them when they air, he says. That's what I need a schedule of, with a propos air, I say. He shoots me a look, but doesn't comment further. People have crowded into command, but they saved me a seat between Finnick and Plutarch. The screens are already up on the table, showing the regular capital feed. What's going on? Aren't we saying the 12 propos? I ask. Oh no, says Plutarch. I mean, possibly. I don't know exactly what footage BT plans to use. BT thinks he's found a way to break into the feed nationwide, says Finnick. So that's our propos. So that our propos will air in the capital too. He's down working on it in special defense now. There's live programming tonight. Snow's making an appearance or something. I think it's starting. The capital still appears underscored by the anthem. Then I'm staring directly into President Snow's snake eyes as he greets the nation. He seems barricaded behind his podium, but the white rose in his lapel is in full view. The camera pulls back to include Peta off to one side in front of a projected map of Panem. He's sitting in an elevated chair, his shoes supported by a metal rung. The foot of his prosthetic leg taps out a strange irregular beat. Beads of sweat have broken through the layer of powder on his upper lip and forehead, but it's the look in his eyes, angry yet unfocused, that frightens me the most. He's worse, I whisper. Finnick grasps my hand to give me an anchor, and I try to hang on. Peter begins to speak in a frustrated tone about the need for the ceasefire. He highlights the damage done to key infrastructure in various districts, and as he speaks, parts of the map light up, showing images of the destruction. A broken dam in 7, a derailed train with a pool of toxic waste spilling from tank cars, a granary collapsing after a fire. All of these he attributes to rebel action. Bam! Without warning, I'm suddenly on television, standing in the rubble of the bakery. Plutarch jumped to his feet. He did it! BT broke in! The room's buzzing with reaction when Peter's back distracted. He has seen me on the monitor. He tries to pick up his speech by moving on to the bombing of a water purification plant when a clip of Fig talking about Rue replaces him. And then the whole thing breaks down into a broadcast battle, and the Capital Tech Masters try to fend off BT's attack. But they are unprepared, and BT, apparently anticipating he would not hold on to control, has an arsenal of 5 to 10 second clips to work with. We watch the official presentation deteriorate as it's prepared with choice shots from the provost. Plutarch's in spasms of delight, and most everybody is cheering BT on, but Finnick remains still and speechless beside me. I meet Hamish's eyes from across the room and see my own dread mirrored back. The recognition that with every cheer, Peter slips even farther from our grasp. The Capitol steals back up, accompanied by a flat audio tone. This lasts about 20 seconds before Snow and Peter return. The set is in turmoil. We're hearing frantic exchanges from their booth. Snow plows forward, saying that clearly the rebels are now attempting to disrupt the dissemination of information they find incriminating, but both truth and justice will reign. The full broadcast will resume when security has been reinstated. He asks Peter if, given tonight's demonstration, he has any parting thoughts for Katniss Everdeen. At the mention of my name, Peter's face contorts in effort. Katniss, how do you think this will end? What will be left? No one is safe. Not in the capital. Not in the districts. And you, in 13? He inhales sharply, as if fighting for air. His eyes look insane. Dead by morning. Off camera, Snow orders. End it. BT throws the whole thing into chaos by flashing a still shot of me standing in front of the hospital at 3-second intervals. But between the images, we are privy to the real-life action being played out on the set. Peter's attempt to continue speaking, the camera knocked down to record the white tile floor, the scuffle of boots, the impact of the blow that's inseparable from Peter's cry of pain, and his blood as it splatters on the tile, the tiles.